Hello, and welcome to Lyla's Lullabies, where we spend time exploring with Lyla, a traveler who wanders the world at her own pace, while sharing her most enriching and restorative moments with you. In tonight's story, we'll follow Lyla as she explores the city and beautiful surroundings of Auckland, New Zealand. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to remember. Just settle in, get comfortable, and let yourself go. We're so glad you're here. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. Lyla woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains, momentarily disoriented before remembering she was in Auckland, New Zealand, in a hotel near Auckland Domain. The flight from Los Angeles had been long, crossing the international date line and arriving late the previous evening, and she'd fallen into bed exhausted, barely registering anything beyond the comfortable mattress and the cool night air coming through the cracked window. Now, refreshed and curious, she got ready and stepped out into the January morning. Summer in New Zealand meant warm sunshine and blue skies, and the temperature was already pleasant even at this early hour. The hotel was indeed near Auckland Domain, the city's oldest park visible from her window, its trees and green spaces inviting exploration. First though, coffee. She'd always heard that New Zealand had great coffee, and there was a cafe just a block away that had good reviews. It was small and welcoming, with a few tables outside under an awning and a chalkboard menu featuring flat whites, long blacks, and various espresso drinks. Morning, the barista greeted her with a warm smile. "What can I get you?" "A flat white, please. I've heard New Zealand coffee is excellent." "Too right. We take our coffee pretty seriously here. This is a local roast, beans from up north. You visiting?" "Yes, just arrived last night. Meeting a friend this morning." "Welcome to Auckland then. Hope you enjoy your stay." The flat white arrived in a proper ceramic cup, the milk perfectly textured with a delicate pattern on top, and Lyla took her first sip. It was indeed quite good, smooth and rich, the espresso strong but not bitter, the milk adding sweetness without overwhelming the coffee flavor. She thought to herself that New Zealanders were right to brag about it. She was halfway through when her friend Fiona arrived, slightly breathless, her reddish hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing casual clothes that suggested she'd come straight from home. When she spotted Lyla, her face lit up with genuine happiness. "Lyla, you're here! I'm so sorry I couldn't pick you up from the airport yesterday. I didn't finish until after midnight." "No problem," Lyla said, standing to embrace her friend. "I knew you were working, and honestly it gave me time to just crash and recover from the flight. Sitting on a plane for that long is exhausting." They'd met years ago in New York at music school. Fiona had been there for a summer program, while Lyla had been taking evening classes. They'd ended up in the same music history class, and had bonded over coffee and complaints about their demanding instructor, staying in touch afterward despite the geographic distance. "Let me get a coffee and then we can catch up properly," Fiona said, heading to the counter. Lyla thought Fiona looked well, settled, happy, comfortable in a way that suggested she'd found her place here in Auckland. When she returned with her own flat white, they sat at the table by the window, and the conversation flowed easily. "So tell me everything," Fiona said. "How have you been?" I feel like I get to travel vicariously through your messages." They talked for a while, catching up on the past year, sharing stories and updates. Fiona talked about her work. In addition to performing, she was teaching music now at a local school, which she loved despite the administrative headaches. They were preparing now for the year-end musical. They'd been going at it pretty hard, but the school principal had stepped in and said that the troupe should take the weekend off, which she was grateful for. Her eyes lit up when she told Lyla about her plans for their time together. "I thought we'd start with Auckland Domain," Fiona said. "It's beautiful in summer, and we can catch up some more while we walk. Then I want to take you up the Sky Tower. The views are incredible. After that, we'll grab lunch at the viaduct, get my car, and drive out to Coromandel. I've booked us a room at a B&B in Whitianga for tonight. Sound good?" "Sounds perfect. A city mouse, country mouse tour," Lyla said. They both smiled. They walked the short distance to Auckland Domain, entering the park through ornate gates. The park was expansive and beautifully maintained, with walking paths winding through manicured gardens and native bush. The Auckland War Memorial Museum sat prominently on a hill, its neoclassical architecture impressive against the blue summer sky. The paths were busy with morning exercises, joggers, dog walkers, people doing Tai Chi on the grass. The air smelled like cut grass and flowers, and native birds called from the trees, tui with their distinctive double notes, fantails darting through the undergrowth. "This is where I come when I need to think," Fiona said as they walked. "Sometimes after a particularly difficult day, I'll just walk these paths for an hour, and it helps everything settle." They wandered through the formal gardens, admiring the roses and native plantings, then climbed toward the museum, not going inside but appreciating the views from the hill. Auckland spread out below them, a city of hills and harbors, the Sky Tower visible in the distance, sailboats dotting the water. "I love how green the city is," Lyla observed. "So many trees, so much park space. It feels like nature is woven through the city rather than pushed to the edges." "That's one of the things I love about living here. You're never far from green space or water. It makes the city feel livable, you know." After an hour in the Domain, they made their way toward the city center and the Sky Tower. The tower was impossible to miss, rising 328 meters above the city, its distinctive shape dominating the skyline. They joined the queue for the lift, not long on a weekday morning, and soon were ascending rapidly, their ears popping as they rose. The observation deck offered 360-degree views, and they spent time at each window, taking in different aspects of the city. To the east, the Haurafiki Gulf stretched to the horizon, islands scattered across the water. To the west, the Waitakere Ranges rose, their forested peaks creating a dramatic backdrop. The city itself spread in all directions, surprisingly compact from this height, the various harbors and bays creating complex geography. "You can see as far as the Coromandel Peninsula," Fiona said, pointing southeast. "We'll be driving there this afternoon. It's one of my favorite places. Beaches, forest, hot springs. Very different from Auckland." They stayed up the tower for almost an hour, not rushing, enjoying the views and the air-conditioned respite from the growing heat outside. A few other tourists were up there. A Japanese family with small children, a couple speaking German, some Australians commenting loudly on how Auckland compared to Sydney. Back at ground level, they walked toward the Viaduct Harbour, the former industrial waterfront that had been transformed into a dining and entertainment precinct. The viaduct was busy with lunchtime crowds, the outdoor tables of restaurants and cafes full of people enjoying the summer weather. They found a spot at a seafood restaurant with views of the marina, boats of all sizes bobbing gently in their slips. The menu featured fresh local seafood, and they ordered fish and chips, a New Zealand classic, Fiona insisted, and a green-lipped mussel fritters to share. The food arrived quickly, the fish perfectly fried in a light crispy batter, the chips hot and salty, the mussels in the fritters plump and flavorful. They ate with their fingers, washing it down with sparkling water, watching the harbor activity, people walking along the boardwalk, someone working on a boat's rigging, seagulls wheeling overhead hoping for scraps. "Right," Fiona said when they'd finished and paid the bill, "time to hit the road. My car's in a lot not far from here. It's about a 2-hour drive to Coromandel, maybe a bit more depending on traffic getting out of Auckland." The car was a sensible hatchback, slightly dusty but well maintained, and they loaded their overnight bags into the back before heading out of the city. Auckland's traffic was moderately heavy, but Fiona navigated it confidently, taking them across the harbour bridge and then east on State Highway 1. As they left the urban sprawl behind, the landscape opened up, rolling green hills dotted with sheep and cattle, patches of native bush, occasional glimpses of the coast. The road was well maintained and scenic, and Fiona kept up a running commentary, pointing out landmarks and sharing stories about the region. "New Zealand is so green," Lyla observed, looking at the pastoral landscape. "Flying here from California, where it's largely brown right now, the contrast is incredible. We get a lot of rain, which helps. Though Auckland's weather is actually pretty mild, we rarely get extreme heat or cold. It's one of the reasons people love living here." They passed through small towns, each one a brief interruption of houses and shops before the countryside resumed. At Kopu, they turned south on State Highway 25, following the coast of the Firth of Thames. The road hugged the coastline now, offering views across the water to the Coromandel Ranges rising steeply on the peninsula. The hills were dramatic and densely forested, looking almost prehistoric in their wild density. The water of the Firth was calm and muddy, more estuary than ocean, with wading birds visible on the tidal flats. The Coromandel Peninsula used to be a major gold mining area, Fiona explained as they drove. In the 1800s, thousands of miners came here looking for gold. Now it's known more for its beaches and native forest, though you can still see remnants of the mining history if you know where to look. They passed through Thames, a small town that served as the gateway to the Coromandel, and continued north along the western coast. The road became more winding, climbing and descending as it followed the coastline, each turn revealing new vistas of coast and forest. At one scenic pullout, Fiona stopped to let Lyla take in the view. The coast stretched north and south, the road visible as a thin ribbon clinging to the hillside, the water sparkling in the afternoon sun. Across the Firth, the mainland was visible, hazy in the distance. "It's beautiful," Lyla said, breathing in the salt air. "So wild and unspoiled." "That's Coromandel. Parts of it get busy in summer with holidaymakers, but there are still plenty of places that feel remote and untouched. That's what I love about it." They continued north, eventually turning inland to cross the peninsula toward the eastern coast. The road climbed through native forest, towering kauri trees, tree ferns creating a prehistoric canopy, the undergrowth dense and green. It felt like driving through a tunnel of vegetation, cool and shadowed after the sunny coast. Emerging on the eastern side, they drove through the small settlement of Whitianga, before continuing south toward Hahei, the access point for Cathedral Cove. The road was narrow and winding, passing holiday homes and glimpses of spectacular beaches. At Hahei, they parked in the car park and followed the walking track toward Cathedral Cove. The track wound through coastal forest and up and down hills, taking about 30 minutes at a leisurely pace. Other walkers passed in both directions: families with children, couples, serious hikers with day packs and walking poles. The track eventually descended toward the beach, and then Cathedral Cove revealed itself. The beach was stunning. White sand, clear turquoise water, and at one end, the massive natural rock archway that gave the cove its name. The arch was cathedral-like indeed, soaring high overhead, the rock white and porous, worn smooth by millennia of waves. "Oh wow," Lyla breathed, stopping to take it all in. "This is incredible." "I know, right? And we can swim here. The water's usually quite calm in the cove. Come on." They made their way down to the beach, finding a spot to leave their bags and shoes. The sand was soft and warm, and the water, when Lyla tested it with her toes, was refreshingly cool but not cold, perfect for a summer afternoon swim. They waded in together, the bottom sandy and gradually deepening. When it was deep enough, they dove under and swam properly, the water clear enough to see the sandy bottom and occasional fish darting past. The cove was sheltered enough that the waves were gentle, just enough movement to make swimming interesting, without being challenging. Other people were swimming and playing in the water, children building sandcastles, a couple snorkeling near the rocks, teenagers jumping off a small cliff into deeper water. The atmosphere was relaxed and happy, everyone enjoying the beautiful summer day. They swam for a while, floating on their backs and looking up at the blue sky, occasionally diving under to cool off completely. The water was crystal clear, the kind of turquoise that seemed almost artificial but was completely natural. After swimming, they explored the archway, walking through it to a smaller beach on the other side. The rock was fascinating up close, full of holes and textures, shaped by endless waves, the arch itself seemingly defying gravity as it soared overhead. "There's another beach we should check out while we're here," Fiona said, checking her phone for the time. "Hot Water Beach. It's not far from here, and the tide should be right in about an hour." They walked back to the car and drove a short distance to Hot Water Beach, parking in another car park that was more crowded than Hahei had been. A shop at the entrance rented shovels, and Fiona got 2. "You'll see why we need these," she said, with a mysterious smile. The beach was wide and beautiful, golden sand stretching in both directions, waves breaking with pleasant consistency. But the remarkable thing was the people gathered in one particular area of the beach, digging holes in the sand. "There are thermal springs under the sand here," Fiona explained as they walked toward the activity. "At low tide you can dig pools and the hot water fills them up. It's like a natural hot tub right on the beach." They found a spot not too crowded and began digging. The sand was wet and heavy, and it took some effort to create a decent-sized pool. But as they dug deeper, Lyla could feel the sand getting warmer, and soon hot water was seeping into their excavation. "Keep digging around the edges to make it deeper," Fiona instructed. "But don't go too deep in the middle or it gets too hot." Other people around them were doing the same, creating pools of various sizes, families with children, couples, groups of friends. There was something delightfully communal about it, everyone digging their own pools, occasionally comparing techniques, warning each other when the water was getting too hot. When their pool was ready, they sat in it, and it was indeed like a natural hot tub, the water almost too hot at first, but perfect once you adjusted. Cold ocean waves occasionally washed in, mixing with the hot spring water, creating a perfect temperature contrast. "This is amazing," Lyla said, leaning back and looking at the ocean. "Sitting in a hot spring on a beach, only in New Zealand." They soaked for almost an hour as the tide came in, eventually making their pools untenable as the ocean encroached. They rinsed off in the cold surf, the temperature shocking after the hot spring water, and walked back to the car, pleasantly tired and completely relaxed. "Time to head to Whitianga," Fiona said. "We can check into the B&B, maybe rest a bit and then find dinner." The drive to Whitianga took only 20 minutes, following the coast and then crossing the Narrows on a small passenger ferry. Whitianga was charming, a small coastal town with a sheltered harbour, boats moored peacefully, shops and cafes lining the main street. The B&B Fiona had booked was on a quiet street a few blocks from the water, a beautifully maintained villa with a garden full of native plants and flowering pohutakawa trees. The owner, a woman in her 60s named Margaret, greeted them warmly. "Welcome, welcome, you must be Fiona and Lyla. Come in, I'll show you to your room." The room was upstairs with a view toward the harbour, furnished with antique furniture and decorated with local art. Everything was immaculately clean, and fresh flowers sat on the dresser in a ceramic vase. "Breakfast is from 7 to 9, Margaret said. "I do a full-cooked breakfast, and there's always fresh fruit and cereals and good coffee. If you need anything, just let me know. There are plenty of good restaurants within walking distance for dinner." After Margaret left, they took showers and rested for a bit, the day's activities catching up with them. The room was comfortable and cool, a fan turning slowly overhead, and Lyla lay on the bed looking at the ceiling, thinking about the day. The views from the Sky Tower, the drive through green countryside, the spectacular beauty of Cathedral Cove, the unexpected delight of hot water beach. "Ready to eat?" Fiona asked eventually, checking her phone. "There's a place I know that does great seafood, very casual, very local." They walked into town as evening settled in, the temperature cooling to something perfect, the sky still light but taking on that golden quality of late summer evenings. The restaurant was indeed casual. Outdoor tables, a menu written on a chalkboard, the smell of grilling fish in the air. They ordered fresh snapper that had been caught that morning, served simply with lemon and herbs, along with a salad and some kumara, sweet potato chips. The fish arrived perfectly cooked, the flesh white and flaky and sweet, and they ate slowly, watching the harbour and the other diners. "So what do you think of New Zealand so far?" Fiona asked, squeezing lemon over her fish. "I love it. There's something about it. The landscapes, the pace of life, the way people are so casual and friendly. It feels, I don't know, balanced somehow. Not rushing toward anything, just being itself." "That's a good way to describe it. Kiwis are pretty laid back. It's one of the reasons I stayed after my program ended. I came for a few months and just never left. It grew on me." After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, the harbour peaceful in the twilight, boats rocking gently in their moorings. A few people were fishing off a dock, and they stopped to watch for a moment, asking what they'd caught. "Just some snapper," one of the fishermen said in that distinctly Kiwi accent. "Decent size too. Beautiful evening for it." They chatted for a few minutes about fishing and the weather and how the summer had been, the conversation easy and friendly in that way that seemed particularly New Zealand. Strangers talking comfortably, informally. Walking back to the B&B as darkness settled fully, they passed houses with lights glowing warmly in windows, gardens full of flowering plants, the occasional cat watching them from a fence post. The air smelled like salt and flowers, and somewhere someone was playing guitar, the music drifting through the evening. At the B&B they said goodnight to Margaret, who was reading in the sitting room, and climbed the stairs to their room. The window was open, letting in the cool night breeze, and they could hear the distant sound of the ocean, a constant gentle rhythm. They got ready for bed at a leisurely pace, the day's activities making them pleasantly tired but not exhausted. Lyla stood at the window for a moment, looking out at Whitianga's lights, thinking about the day, about Fiona's life here in New Zealand, about the journey from music school in New York to teaching in Auckland, about the particular magic of places that felt untouched despite being discovered, that offered beauty without demanding anything in return. "Thank you for today," she said to Fiona, who was already in bed, "for sharing all of this with me. It's been perfect." "My pleasure. Tomorrow we can explore more if you want, or just relax before we head back. The Wedding Singer, the musical, is calling." She sighed, and they both chuckled. Lyla climbed into her own bed, the sheets cool and crisp, and lay there listening to the sounds of the New Zealand night, the ocean, a moorpork calling somewhere in the darkness, the rustle of wind in the pohutukawa trees. The day settled into her mind. The morning coffee in Auckland, the drive through green countryside, the spectacular cove with its cathedral arch, the unexpected joy of hot spring pools dug in beach sand, the simple pleasure of fresh fish and good conversation. She thought about friendship and how it persisted across distance and time, how you could reconnect with someone after months or years and slip right back into the rhythm of knowing each other. She thought about Fiona finding her place here, building a life in this country at the bottom of the world, teaching music and swimming in clear water and digging hot pools in beach sand, and seeming genuinely happy with all of it. The night deepened, the sounds of Whitianga gradually quieting, as the ocean kept its steady rhythm, patient and eternal, and the breeze through the window carried the scent of the sea and native flowers. Lyla was grateful for the day and the place and the friend who'd shared it all, for the gift of discovering new places through someone who loved them, for the particular contentment that came from a day well spent in beautiful places with good company.